6 shots or only 5? Well, to tell you the truth, in all this excitement, I've kind of lost track myself. But Ian, this is a 44 Magnum, the most powerful handgun in the world, and would blow your head clean off. You've got to ask yourself one question. Do I feel lucky? Well, do you?
Shut the fuck up, okay? Shut the fuck up!
I'm sorry, man. They're just my two favorites, man. You can't never go wrong with Clint Eastwood. I think he's one of the coolest white guys of all time. And Larry David, the greatest Jew of all time. Him and Jerry Seinfeld. 1, 2, 1A, 1B. But I got a special guest today, man. Joey, I want you to pronounce your own last name because I'm dyslexic and I'm not trying to fuck your name up, man.
That's all right. It's LoFaro. It's not
LoFaro. Okay.
Yeah. A lot of people like to mix and match and make it LaFaro. It's not. I don't know why. Or they like to do the LoFario. I get that one a lot. I don't know why I like to put I's in there. There's no I's in there.
Yeah, I always like I had a guy named Phil Coors on the other day, and I was like, "Yo, how you pronounce it?" Because I feel like I don't want to offend nobody's last name. You know what I mean? Or
yeah,
you know what I mean. I like to let people tell me what it is. You know what I mean? But I came here to have you on, man, because I had a lot of people. I was looking for people, seeking people on Baltimore's comedy Facebook group, and I've been really interested. I've been doing this journey about a year in April, so I've been interested to find people to talk comedy with, man.
Okay,
and find out what their journeys were and get some tips or give tips to other people. So,
yeah,
man,
absolutely.
I feel like because I'm on the East Coast and it's a lot of questions I have personally.
Okay.
And sometimes people be like, nah, I'm not gonna give you the juice. You know what I mean? So seeking these interviews and getting these interviews, people have been giving information. I've been taking it.
I know why anybody would do that. Like the one thing that's crazy to me is like people act like I know we're up there by ourselves when we were on stage, but the reality is like it's not a team sport, but we all play the same sport. We all got to be ambassadors for the sport. So you should never, ever not want someone to be better. That's just the way I believe in. Like if I'm on a lineup, everyone better be funnier than me. And not because I'm not killing it, but I want to put pressure on them to be the best version of themselves. I want them to bring the best version of me out of me. So we all should be pushing each other to be the best comedians we can, because that's what's going to help us build audiences. I mean, not every city has the same, it's not a New York or an Austin, that has that like every, Tuesday night, 2 shows sold out, the very few do. Very few have that appetite for stand-up like that. And only way we get there is by elevating each other.
And I have I don't understand why people can't come to that realization of that, man. And because I have countless people tell me, "Hey, Rod, if you punch this up like this, or give me tags," and I have no problem with it. You know what I mean? Because my shit could get better. You know what I mean? Like I said, like everybody gets help some kind of way, man. It's a team effort because I know a lot of great writers, and a guy that I go to his mic, man, he says some people are gifted writers but not gifted performers.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, and
it's true.
So if you want to give me some jokes, give me them jokes. But man, so how did Joe LoFaro get into comedy, man?
Joe's my dad, and I can't.
Sorry, Joey.
I got. That's how I separate because there's three Joe LoFaros in my family. My grandfather, my dad, and me. So to differentiate, I at very early age decided I was going to be Joey. I was going to stay Joey.
Oh, my fault, man. My fault, man.
No. It's cool. I that's why I like a lot. I gotta differentiate because otherwise, then my mail goes to his house. Weird. But
God damn.
No, but But yeah, so I actually, you know, I actually started out because growing up, I used to watch SNL a lot, and I used to watch Jim Carrey a lot, and watching those guys in the '90s go from sketch comedy to making movies, and watching, you know, Adam Sandler build like almost a whole universe of movies just because he had ideas. They're not all good ones. They're not even good movies, but the fact that he kind of could like he could have an idea for a movie and just make it. Like he got to that point. And like, you know, there are some that are like cult classics, but no one's like, oh, my favorite movie ever is Big Daddy. Like no one is like, you know, even, you know, I loved Happy Gilmore, but I rewatched Billy Madison recently and it was like, oh shit, this ain't it. It did not age well. So, you know, there's some stuff where, but I always wanted to have that ability to like have an idea, and then have the opportunity to make it. And I love that about both like sketch and then in movies. And I saw Jim Carrey kind of get to the same point in his career where, you know, I love the way he could kind of disappear into roles and stuff. So I saw all that, and I kept seeing the common thread was they all started with stand-up. You know, they would start with stand-up and then move over to the sketch stuff, then get on TV, then do the movie. So I thought that was the path. I just turned 40 last week. So that was what I grew up watching as the path, because like we didn't grow up with YouTube and, you know, and having a camera in your phone and all this stuff. So my first time performing stand up was in a TV production class, because one of the assignments we had was to coordinate talent to come into the studio and tape a show. So not my own show. I wasn't producing it. So I was kind of the class clown, and somebody else was like, hey, can you do stand up? And I was like, sure. Not having any idea how difficult it was, and I did 30 minutes on this tape in front of my classmates at 9 a.m. with no drinks, no, like, there's, you know, 2 people in the audience, and this, I don't know if it was funny or not at all. But that was my first time on stage.
Yeah, man. And I think one thing I appreciate about Adam Sandler, man, just to go back to there, that he put all his homeboys on. Mm-hmm. Like all his friends was in every movie. Like instead of them just being the entourage, he said, no, you're gonna work. You know what I mean? And I think that's the better thing to do.
The pinnacle of that with Grandma's Boy, because like he wasn't even like, you know, he wasn't even, it was all his, that was just his boys making a movie. Yeah. And even that was good. I actually like that better than most of his other stuff. What's the ones he's in? Like
I liked him in Anger Management. I think that's an underrated movie.
Yeah, I don't know if that was one of his movies,
but you know what I mean. Him acting.
Yeah. There's a big difference though between like his productions, and there was a period where he was just like, I think he did some artsy thing like Punch Drunk Love or something. Yeah. And like there was a while where he was trying to like legitimize himself as an actor. He was going and doing just acting in other movies. But like what I wanted to do was I wanted to be that producer. I wanted to be the actor producer. I wanted I don't even care if I'm in it sometimes. I just wanted to be able to like, I have this idea for this cool movie idea. I want to do it. So it was interesting. And then at some point it just became, well, now I'm doing this. So now I'm doing this. Because I got away from like I'm in stand-up as a means to an end, to where now I have so much time invested. I'm just doing stand-up to be doing stand-up.
So how did your folks take it? You want to do stand-up?
They didn't really pay it no mind, because I never like tried to live off of it. Like,
okay,
that was never an option. Like, so I never went to school for for entertainment. I did go to school for TV production, but that was more of like just the AV stuff. And I always kind of was a techie kid growing up. I was, my dad worked IBM, so when we were the kids in the neighborhood that while everyone else was playing like Nintendo, we were like installing games on the computer at like 7, 8 years old, working DOS prompt to load up our games. So growing up with that background, like I kind of knew I was going to end up, and I have a day job. I work in IT, so my folks never really gave a crap about it, but they also kind of are in their own stuff. So I know my mom has always been, early on was kind of critical of my type of stand up, and that was only because like when you're new, you don't know how to punch the right way.
Mm-hmm.
Like one of the things you develop over time is because like half the battle is people knowing where you're coming from so they can laugh. That's why a lot of people don't understand. Like you can't always just go on stage and replicate the funny that you have with your friends or having a conversation, right? Like when you're having a friend, you're with your friends, they have the context of who you are. When you go on a stage, those are strangers. They don't know that. So it's dicey. You have to be more measured in your approach. And you like the more mature you are, like the more you understand, okay, this is gonna, if I say it this way, it's gonna alienate some people, but that's not really what I mean. So let me just choose my words differently. And as you learn to express things to where you're not undermining it. So like so it's like you just like sometimes it's like you don't think of yourself as being sexist or racist or whatever, and that's not how you mean a joke, but it could be interpreted that way because the way the words you chose were insensitive. You aren't showing the knowledge of like, it's one of those things where you're like, what you're stepping in versus not. There's rules. It's like knowing the rules before you break them. That's probably the best way I can express it. So like as you learn what the rules are, then you learn to break them in a way where, okay, if I know I'm breaking some eggs to make this omelet, I'm doing it on purpose. I'm not breaking the eggs because I'm knocking them off the counter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think early on, like it was a little bit difficult because for my mom, I know it was a little bit. We were a little bit closer, and she was paying attention a little bit to like I would post, because like comics, we all post stuff online to just kind of float ideas, right? Sometimes, and I would get comments from her every once in a while, going, I didn't raise you this way, da 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 da. And I'm like, first of all, it was a joke. Second of all, like you know who I am. If anybody should understand that this is not, this is fodder, it should be you. But you clearly didn't, so I got to retool my stuff, and that was kind of a difficult path to we kind of both came to a level like she started to understand that I was working through learning to express myself in a better way, and then I was also maturing and understanding that I'm not always putting out what I want to be putting out.
Yeah, and I feel you that I got banned from an open mic. I had a joke where I talked about going through a divorce, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I said I don't think the government should get in the way of how much I should be paying my ex-wife or how much I should be giving her a month, right? So I had a whole joke about my grandma had kids because she wanted to build a legacy with my grandfather. They had 13 kids, right?
Damn.
So I said she didn't think it was a reward at the end of at the end of the rainbow. It was not. She wanted to have a big family, right?
Yeah.
So I had a joke about that. I said, at the end of the day, my ex-wife pussy was not mermaid pussy. It should, you shouldn't get restitutions for having a kid, right? So I had a joke about that, right? I don't know if you ever heard of Havre de Grace, Maryland.
Yeah.
Okay, so I went to a mic out there.
Yeah.
Then they get like, oh my God, where's the joke at? Some real feminist, white chicks. I heard, oh, where's the joke at? So I went on to my next joke. I got mad and I started talking about domestic violence, right? So I put 2 bowls on 1 cake and they got me out of there. I got banned for that because it felt like hate speech. So I found early on, the rules is different from different folk if it's not punch right. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, well, it's like there, and that goes back to the where you coming from thing, right? Like if you're speaking to a truth that is universally true, like they can still get mad at you, but there's a tipping point. There's a tipping point for the reasonable audience members. Mm-hmm. Now, when there's some people who are just going to get mad because they're going to get mad. There's other people who are like, well, but it wasn't funny. So what were you trying to do? And new comics have this happen a lot, where like the joke isn't fully written, or they'll start stating the premise, and the premise is because like jokes are basically tension and release, right? We build tension and then you release it. That's the exorcism. The setup in the premise is can build tension, especially for the ones that like are edgy, right? You're gonna build that tension by approaching a subject that people feel strongly about. People are gonna butthole's gonna pucker up a little bit, right? You're gonna get tight, but then the punchline is supposed to release that tension. When you're new and you don't know how to execute that punchline yet, because it's just a matter of time and working on it. I mean, and that's not even a new comic thing. That's a new joke thing. I still have days where I go try something out and I go, I haven't really finished the joke yet, or found where I want to go with it yet, or find what that ribbon is that really ignites the punchline. And people will have trouble because once they've tensed up around that idea, and they don't get the payoff of a punchline that lets them release that tension and laugh, now they're on edge. So you can lose them quickly, and then it becomes an antagonistic relationship. Like, comedy is not one person telling jokes at an audience; it's a dialogue. They're just not using words to express themselves back to you.
And you know what I mean? And that's why I found out at that open mic when I got banned, I said, man, I gotta retool this, and I start writing from a different place because I didn't like how that felt. I didn't want to be a heel. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not Andrew Dice Clay, or you know what I mean, the ultimate villain, or anybody, you know what I mean? So I started going where more personal material, like my kids. I got kids. I started talking about that, relationships, the safe bets where I know I ain't gonna get banned, you know. And I still
telling your own story is always better. Like, then, because that also helps too, right? Because part of the battle is I'm going to talk about this sensitive subject because I have strong emotions about it, and a lot of people have other strong emotions about it. Now, if we have differences, and I'm just talking in abstract, then as an audience member, I don't know that you know what you're talking about. I don't know what you've been through. I don't know that you even had this. You could just be like, think you heard it on TV and be regurgitating some shit. You don't even know what's going on. So when you put your personal story into it and those details from your own experience in there, now it's real. Now I can, even if I disagree with you, I can acknowledge and I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah.
I know it's coming from the heart. I know you mean it, and I know that you don't mean it because, you know, you just think that way, or it's like, no, you have a life experience that informs your opinion, and there's a reason for that. And it allows you to connect and have that empathy and be in it with you. And you always want people to be laughing with you, not at you anyway.
Yeah. Man, but how long did like you say you started? How many years you say you got in again?
So I have a net 9 years. I had a lot of on and offs. So that first like videotape thing was in like 07, 08. That's when I did my first set, but that TV studio bullshit. The first time I did an open mic was like in 2010. and I did a couple open mics, but I didn't really like try to do stand up. It was more just kind of figuring it out. And then I moved to Philly for like 2 years. And then when I moved back in like 2012, 2013, I worked at it for like a good 3 years. Okay. But I started producing and then I burnt out producing and I took another like 3 years off and picked back up coming out of the pandemic. So it's been a lot of starting and stopping. So like how long has it been since I started is a very different question. And how long have I been doing it?
Okay. So how long,
so 9 years about of actual
doing
time.
It.
Yeah.
Of time. Okay.
Because that's what when you ask somebody how long they've been doing it, it's really like how long you've been trying to be funny.
Okay. Right. So man, I told everybody, I told my wife, I said, I was going through you know what I mean, not a midlife crisis. I'm only 32. You can't have a midlife crisis at 32. But anyway, I was going through like a depression thing about being creative, right? Mm-hmm. You know me, everybody, Joey, played sports and you missed that after high school and whatever college, whatever, that bonding thing. And once I was watching something, I don't know what I was watching. I think I might have been watching Dave Chappelle's special on Netflix. I think it's something Stones or whatever. Okay. It just helped my mood out. I said, yo, I'd like to try that. Because you know, everybody think they're funny till they actually on the stage. So
it's just different kind of fun. Like I've done improv, and it's a very different mechanism for comedy than like stand up. Stand up is a very specific skill set, and it requires like certain ingredients that you have to develop those skills. Even if you like. It's like I said, people don't realize how much technical aspect there is to it that will inform your ability to do it. Because like there's just understanding the structure and writing of a joke. A lot of people, and you see there's an epidemic of this, especially with social media. A lot of people don't understand that a premise is not a whole joke. A lot of people just throw an idea out there and think that people are supposed to laugh because they agree. A premise is just an idea. And if even people agree with an idea, it doesn't mean that that's a punchline. You haven't given them anything that they didn't already know. You didn't throw a curveball. You didn't do nothing. So a lot of people, but because they see like video clips, the one video trend I hated, the one I couldn't stand the most, was that stupid thing where people are going, I'm a blah, blah, blah. Of course I blah, blah, blah. That is just premises. That's all that is. It's not funny. People don't actually like watch reactions to it, which is like, you watch someone watch that. I guarantee you that no one's ever laughed out loud at any of those because all it is premises. People like it. They go, yup, that is what happens. I am like that. They comment on it. But if you just went on stage and said that shit, nobody would laugh because it's just, okay, you just made a list of the way you are. That's not funny. You got to give them punchlines. You got to give them act outs. You got to give them a story. You give them something more than just stating the obvious. And it's because you see people getting attention for it online, people will come out on stage and try to do it in live, and they don't understand. That's not how a joke works. That's not a whole joke. You have half a joke. You have a setup. You have to like give them the scenario and then tell them what happened in your scenario, or like or misdirect and then lead them back to the scenario. It's like, well, most people would do this, but because I'm an Aquarius, I did it this way. Whatever. You have to have those setups, and like it's crazy to me that like so many people don't like it's such a like writing is so like dying right now because that like there's a big disconnect from online to live, and it doesn't translate.
But you know what I mean? I told early on, I went to my first open mic, and it was tough. I was sweating like I had a kilo underneath my car, and the Maryland State Police was behind me. And once I did it, I enjoyed it. I feel like I got hooked. I feel like it's like doing meth or crack. You know what I mean? Once you can't, it can be very addictive. And I was just being the mic warrior, and I said, man, I got to stop and take time to really write. And I think that's a case too where a lot of people try to freestyle up there, and that's a no.
It's fine. You gotta understand this what you're I always say when you do an open mic, be intentional with your time. What are you trying to do? Do you have an idea for a joke and you're just trying to feel it out? You're not sure you want to play with the idea, then go up there and talk, but don't expect too many laughs. You could do that. You can go talk to live people just to figure out how you want to say things or stuff like that, especially early on. But understand that you can't just do that for 5 minutes and expect people to keep putting you up, get more stage time or whatever. So I tend to, instead of doing that at an open mic, I'll look for opportunities. Like there's a Zoom call on Mondays with Washington, D.C. Writers Group. They have an online feedback mic. It's all comedians, but we take turns. Someone will give, like, I get to do my set, then people give me feedback on it. Then they do their set, and then we do feedback on it. And they don't always give you something useful because of the words you chose, but that also can be helpful because then oh, I said this, which made them think this, which is not what I was trying to say. So let me try a different direction. But it helps you get those first forming. It's like shaping something out of clay, right? The first thing, you're not trying to make a cup. You're not trying to put the handle on the cup and the detail. You're trying to just shape something that, it's a block. Let me get it to be a little bit more round. Like that's what I'm talking about. That first stage, right? Then it comes into adding the structure and stuff. Then you start building it, and then you start hitting open mics, and that's where you start trying to figure out, hey, if I say this audience reacts that way. If I say this audience reacts that way. I always encourage, anytime you got a new joke or a new set, go to as many different types of rooms of different audiences as you can in succession. See what rings true at every single one of them, and then see which ones you need to maybe try a different phrase here, do a little change to the setup there.
And I started noticing, maybe it's because when I had my first show, right? I had my first show in DC. It was at I don't know if you ever heard it. It was called the Tacoma Station Tavern.
Yep.
It's in DC.
I've been there a couple times.
Yeah, I stopped through there. Huh?
I've done a show there.
Okay. Yeah, I had a show there too. So I had a show there, and it was games on, the Commanders game versus the Eagles on, and people wasn't paying attention. The only person who was paying attention was my sister. I said, yo, how am I going to make this? I think I was doing 7 minutes. So how am I going to make this 7 minutes enjoyable when people not really paying attention? So I just figured a way to keep myself engaged, man, because it's hard when you don't have an audience that's paying attention and the TV's on. Have you ever had experiences like that?
Oh yeah, I've performed in every kind of room. I hopefully if it's a show, then that's not happening. To the point where, like, and I'm a big production guy. Like, I founded comedy shows near me. We produce shows. And one of the reasons I did that was just because as I was going out around doing, performing on other people's shows, I would find myself doing sound, doing lights, turning off the TVs, talking to them. Hey, can we do this? Hey, can we do that? To try and get the focus. Now, Tacoma Station has always been a difficult venue for that reason, because a lot of times the only people there to support the venue are the people at the bar, and they aren't there for comedy. And I've been to a number of mics and shows there. That's always been the case at that venue. I don't think it's a problem with the venue necessarily, but one of the challenges with putting a consistent comedy product in there is the parking's terrible around there. It's really tough to get people in there.
I had a guy on the other day, Tracy M. Jackson. I don't know if you know him. He's from DC.
I've heard of him. Yeah.
Yeah, he was talking about the same thing about the parking and everything like that. I said, yeah, it was rough. But man, yeah, man. So why do you think people don't take the process of finding a good venue? Because you produce shows, and and putting the time in that? You think?
I think
that easy say done, or
I always am the one to like act like I'm not doing anything anyone else can do. So I'm not gonna stand here and tell you that I'm the best at what I do, but some people will say that. But typically, to me, it's not that difficult. The thing that you have to do is like be in it for the right reasons. If you're in it to put on a quality product for an audience and build an audience and try to, like, are you in it for the love of the game? Are you building something to, but what's your motivation, right? Because if I'm in it to make money, then I do bringer shows. Bringer shows make a ton of money. They're consistent.
Never lie.
Yeah, that's what they're there to do. But you know what it does? It burns audience. It burns audience. It hurts the comedy game. It hurts comics development. It is terrible for comedy. So, depends on what your motivation is. Oh, am I running a show because I want to be at the face of it and try to get other people to put me on their shows? A lot of people are doing it for that reason, and so they're not like I've been put on shows where somebody literally just gave me a guest spot, so I would give them a spot on my show, and I don't do that way because it's a disservice to the audience. If I'm going to book you, I'm going to book you because I think you're funny. And I think you're going to give my audience something different, because I'm a big believer in having a show that has something for everybody every time.
And I feel like, man, when you look at the lineups, I'm like, damn, how many people going to see Joe Smitty 8,000 times on the same month-to-month show? I feel like it's a lot of bromance type of lineup sometimes, and
that's why you'll see that. You'll see people doing each other favors there. I mean, now I will say, as a producer, when I bring people back consistently, it's because they've proven to do all the things. They show up on time. They handle their business well. They always make the audience laugh. They don't alienate people. I don't have to refund tickets because of them. They promote well. Some people don't promote, help promote the show. And while if you're funny, and I'm going to book you, but at the same time, I'm way more inclined to have people back that help fill the room up, right? It all factors in. It all factors in. It depends on the people, what they're doing. One thing that I see a lot of is, and I don't know how this will carry forward into the new year, but like we had years and years of everybody going, oh, it's March. Let's have all these women on. Oh, it's February. Let's have all the black people. Oh, it's June. Let's have all the gay people. And I've always been of the opinion that if you're about diversity, it's not something you have to prove or do or put it on as a theme. Every single one of our shows, the lineups is diverse. Every single one, because we started in Silver Spring and our audience is mixed. So our lineup had to reflect that. But you'll see, because they're trying to, a lot of people were trying to be diversity first, but didn't know enough people to be diversity first. They keep the same resources. Like, I know
he looks black. He looks black.
Right. If you know 5 black people, then you're going to book them all in February every year. Like if same thing. And so, women was a big one. Like for the last couple of years, there was a big push to try and give women more opportunities, and the demand was higher than the availability of women with quality sets. Right. We went from having no demand, and you had women working their asses off to be the funniest one in the room, and then you had suddenly a demand that way exceeded the per minute. I don't mean like, bookings, but like, all of a sudden we're looking for, we went from looking for maybe a female headliner every couple months to now for a little while it was like they needed like 5 every other day, and so there wasn't time for that ramp up to happen to meet the demand. So that was a process that I think is now starting to level out. But for a while there, you know, it was just what was being emphasized. It is always different reasons to pull together, you know, people. It just depends on what's your goal. What are you trying to do? You know, if you're trying to create avenues, like there's some brands out there that is what they do. They are there to give opportunities to people. There's other clubs that try to be, you know, oh, well, we partner with nonprofits and we do nonprofit, you know, based shows. You know, there, it just depends on like, but then you're putting something else there ahead of comedy. Right. And I understand why, like sometimes it helps sell tickets. Sometimes it's because like every single flyer you see says the best comics in the DMV or the best comics in DC. And it's like, well, not every show has the best comics. So stop lying. Right. But you know, if you didn't say that, no one would come. So, I mean, we have the DC Comedy Club in Adams Morgan that is just, you know, it's basically an open mic. Whoever shows up there can get time if the guy who runs it likes you, doesn't book anybody, doesn't pay people, doesn't have headliners. And I mean, that's what people Google and find. So that it's always full. And guess what? It's probably mostly tourists. And all them tourists think this DC comedy scene sucks ass because they walked in that room.
Damn.
But they got Hotbed down the street, and Hotbed, you know, they don't always they have much better shows. But which one are you going to go to? Are you going to know to Google Hotbed?
Nah, I don't even know what that is. I don't even know what that is.
Hotbed's is the comedy club in Adams Morgan.
Okay.
It's a relatively new one.
Yeah. Like I always from the Baltimore guys I know, there's like, nah, DC's not the scene. And it's a lot of that shit going on too. DC's not the scene, or they're too liberal and they're not, you know, it's all that kind of, you know, smut going on DC and in other areas to keep you in one scene. No,
DC is the gravitational pull is heavier in DC. Mm-hmm. I think DC isn't as strong a scene right now as Baltimore. I'll say that. Baltimore, I think in a lot of ways, some of the best talent. I would say Baltimore and Richmond have people more consistently that I like, or I think are better consistently than DC right now. Now, that said, most of the people who I know who really kill it in DC, because once you get to a certain point in DC, then a lot of those people move to New York. So we like DC has launched more people, like historically. Yeah. More people have launched out of DC, and there's a reason for that. DC is a harder place to grow. It is the weight room, because unlike New York, which is a melting pot where everybody goes to try and make it, right? I want to be a part of it. New York, right? Everybody wants to be there. They can empathize. They are also trying to make it. So the audience is there. While they see a lot of comedy, they're usually game for it, and they'll give you a chance because they're out there to have a good time. DC crowds are here. Why? DC is a melting pot too. But why do people come to DC? It's the nation's capital. It is a seat of power. People come here with causes that they feel very strongly about. Mm-hmm. It's very powerful. And so you have to really learn that skill set we started talking about right at the beginning, where I said you got to learn how to punch. You got to learn how to express yourself in a way that lets people access your story or your sensibilities without losing them. And people are worried about other people seeing them laugh at stuff. Especially, it wasn't like that before the pandemic, but coming out of 2020, the audiences in DC are so tight. You might get a laugh, but everybody go, "Oh, I don't want to see," you know, those like, "Ha! Oh shit!" Like they do. I see that all the time.
So, man. So, what else I was about to ask you, man? I see that you opened up, or you had a couple shows. You had a show with Pierre. How was it working with a DC comedian legend like himself. How was that to work with him?
Oh man, Pierre, that was a minute ago.
Or any comedians, any like OGs or any OGs you work with or been on shows with. How was that? Like, did that boost you up to have a good show when you be in the lineup with OG comedians? Or
it's fun. I think that one of the things is as you do it more, you start realizing that like that whole idea that someone's gonna love you and take you under their wing and like you're gonna be on tour with them and all that, like you gotta remember you're like 1 in a billion, bro. Like that's not, they got so many people trying to do the same thing. They ain't checking for you. Like once you realize that, and you know, I think that I haven't had that moment where I was like, I haven't really had that opportunity where I was like, oh, this isn't that big a deal. I'm just going to go and have fun and do my thing, and whatever happens, happens. I think that's where you have to be, right? Mm-hmm. That's the goal. Like, because at the end of the day, the whole point of a comedy show is to have fun. Mm-hmm. And if you're not having fun, the audience isn't having fun. And if you turn it into work because you're trying to impress somebody, that's not the same. That's not how you do it. If you put that pressure on yourself, it's gonna affect everybody downstream from there. You need to get to the point where when you working with somebody like that, if you really want them to see what you're capable of, you got to act like it's nothing else. That the only thing is me trying to do the, you know, just killing it. I'm going to go up there and execute on what I want to do. I'm going to go up there. I'm going to have fun with these people. I'm going to touch their heart. Like, not even like, I'm going to go fuck this crowd up. Like, not that, like, you can't have that energy where it's like, cause you go in there too hot, they're going to get, you know, you're going to make that audience tense up. And when they don't give you exactly what you want, then it's going to turn antagonistic. You got to go be the best version of yourself, meet that audience where they are, and make sure that they're cheering for you when you leave. Always leave them wanting more. If you do that, then them OGs are going to be okay. I see you. You know, that's what you want. Not the, you know, I got this opportunity, I better do well. Don't carry that in there.
Yeah, man. Like, what's your thoughts about like I tell everybody, man, I like going to different shows. I had a show and I was the only black guy there. Mm-hmm. And I felt good about that. I got to try my stuff, and I like to try my stuff everywhere. You know what I mean? And to see where it always stand, right? And like, it was a good experience to do, man. You know what I mean? I was nervous at first.
Yeah.
Like, when you the only of anything, you like, damn, what I'm gonna do? You know what I mean? And the journeying of this, the nervousness and all the emotions before you go on stage, what I look forward to. Like, I like working my shit out, but I like the show vibe because it feels like it's game 7. You know what I mean? I got to get that 1 yard. You know what I mean? It's all on me to perform.
Yeah, it's you always think back to, you know, football practice, right? Like the practice is the work.
Yeah, the work.
The practice is the work. The game day is just fun. You know, you hear about like people, teams quitting, right? Oh, I quit on my coach. They quit on their coach. It's not on game day. They quit during practice. They didn't do that. They didn't run that practice rep the same way. And the same thing's true for comedy. If you are how you prepare is how, you know, is what frees you up to be present. Because you're going to be the comedy requires a certain, like, when we say stage presence, it's not, it's, you know, you carried yourself a certain way. It's you don't have to think about anything. You're not encumbered with, I got to tell this joke in this order. You know, you're not trying to like force anything. You're not trying to remember a joke. You're not trying to remember the order of your jokes, right? You are free to be present in the moment and engage with the crowd. And it's a flow of energy. It's not always, crowd work isn't always words. It's not always talking to people. Sometimes it's just acknowledging what's happening or receiving the energy and putting it back out and keeping that flow moving. It's about keeping the flow moving. You know, the best time you can do that is when you are present. So when stage presence, think being present. That's what it means. So the best way to do that is be prepared. Have all that, do all the work, do all the structuring of stuff, do all that during a week, and do it as many different audiences as you can. Like you said, I can't count how many times I've been the only white guy in the room. It happens a lot. And typically when that does happen, people are very quick to assume that I'm in over my head. So
or you're going to do edgy jokes, or you're going to do some crazy edge.
Right.
I hate the nervous white guy thing.
They love to put me on first. They love to put me on first because like, we better get him out of the way. I'm like, bruh, I've been doing this longer than you. and you know, and they fuck it up for themselves because now everybody got pressure on them if I go up there and kill first. So like but then again, it's the show versus the mic. What is your goal? What are you doing? The mic is the work.
Yeah, and I like that show because it taught me I could survive in that room. I could swim, right? And I had a current event joke. I think it was like the same time Donald Trump was talking about deporting Mexican people. So I said, man, I got my wife's pregnant right now. I said, fuck it. I'll take a seat right now if we go to Mexico. I don't want to deal with my pregnant wife. So I played off that, right? And it was not too crazy. They loved it. I'm like, oh my God. So I feel like, you know what I mean? I like experience new things. I'm doing it because right now it's not about the money for me personally. It's just a good way to be creative. And you know what I mean?
A long time before you make any money doing that.
That's why I'm not worried about that. I like expressing myself. It helps me mentally. You know what I mean? To be creative. I think everybody missed that, to use that button in their brain of being creative. And
yeah, it's kind of like it's therapy until it isn't. Yeah. Like it's really like it's why some open mics are really tough to go to. But like some people haven't figured out how to make that pain funny. And so until you figure it out, you're just going up there and going through therapy.
Yeah.
The caution I always try to say is if you got a good joke, lead off with it. Get the audience on your side early, let them engage, and then give them something, sandwich in those things. If you're trying to work out something and get it from pain to the funny to the catharsis, we talk again. Because what you want to do, again, it's all about that tension release, right? Until you figure out how to release that tension, you don't want to put it out there. Because that's just going to make everybody tense and go, oh, I did not like that.
Where's the joke? Oh,
right.
Man, I got 3 more questions for you that I'm going to get you out of here, man.
Okay. Go for it. Sorry, I know I'm long-winded as fuck.
It's good, man. What is your mental process of when you run out of jokes? Like when you got writer block, what is your methods or tips to get because sometimes I feel like Spider-Man. You remember in the comic book, Spider-Man even ran out of webs in the comic book. So
you mean on stage or just in general? Like
in general, there's premises and ideas.
Sometimes what I'll do is if I'm stuck, and I've had this happen, right? So I've been, say I've been working on a bit. It's not really there, but I'm kind of like, it's hard to keep working on a bit continuously. Because what happens is you'll get to a point where new ideas aren't flowing. You can't quite figure out why it's not clicking over the way you want it to. And it might just be that like you've hit the point where your writing skill isn't allowing you to take that joke to the next place it needs to go. Or there's some life event or detail you haven't had happen to you that allows you to build on it yet, right? So it's very important to kind of take it to where you can, but don't lose interest in your own shit. Like if you get to the point where you're like banging your head against the wall and like it's not fun for you, if it's not fun for you to tell the joke anymore, then it's not going to be fun for the audience to hear, and you're not going to be able to build it in at all, because you're not, you're in that tug of war of like, they're not laughing, you're not getting what you want out of it, no one's happy. So take a break, right? And either work on a different joke that, because like you get better, right? Like if I typically work in in a very circular manner with my writing. Like I'll work on some jokes, and then I'll work on new stuff, come back around, right? And then I'll come back and I'll be like, I haven't done this joke in a while, and maybe I'll fiddle with it again. And what you don't realize is that time between when you left that joke and came back to it, you leveled up as a writer, because you're learning new skills. You've written other jokes that might tie into it now. So the next time you come back to it, now you have some fresh ideas. If I'm really like at the point where like I really don't know what I want to do, sometimes I'll just go to an open mic and listen and challenge myself, right? Especially as someone who's been doing it for a while, I can see where other people like are not there yet with their joke. And like literally, it's sometimes you just find inspiration, because like nothing's new under the sun. You're gonna have people talk about common premises. I remember I went to go see. I saw one show. Some kid was talking about being a child of divorce and the effect it had on him. And I just like in my own head had tags, and I had tags that like I don't need to do his joke verbatim. I have my own story because I have a kid with divorce. The thing that made that joke relatable and funny and allowed me to add a tag is the thing that allows me to just tell my own story, my own version of it. Like, it's not like we both had the same experience. If I tell just because someone else did a joke about divorce doesn't mean that I can't do a joke about divorce. My parents divorced, therefore I'm telling my own version, and I'm going to find details that allow me to have a very different joke because they're unique to me, or maybe they're relatable because they're common. I had one joke that, but it led to me coming up with my joke about, I have one about like, the reverse psychology that your parents do when they get divorced and they go, it's not your fault. Cause you weren't thinking that before they said it. Like, like you heard them arguing. This was never a question. You were just like, why are mom and dad arguing? You were never like, I think it's because of me. Like that was never happening.
And that's real, because I hear that and I'm like, damn, like when you have a kid,
yeah,
the relationship change.
Mm-hmm.
It's different kind of stress, so you can't really say that shit because
right.
Things are different.
Right. It's just like that was what they were there, but back then it was like, oh, don't let them think it's their fault. I'm like, if you hadn't said anything, I would have been fine. But because you like now you said it, like now why are you saying that? Well, so like it all can come from different places. I'll go, sometimes I'll just go and listen and see what other people are talking about. And sometimes sometimes I'll see the punchline they probably should have used, or I think they should have used, and that leads me down a rabbit hole. And it's like people, that kind of thing is not. If you got to be careful with it. Don't go stealing people's shit. But like, it doesn't, like, being inspired is a very different thing. If it gets you out of that stagnation to just write some stuff, and you can sometimes give it to them. Like, it's like, hey, I thought that was funny. Hey, and then you say it to them as a tag, like, and then they keep it. I've had that happen too. I've given plenty of my friends stuff.
So, man, have you, when you said you can be inspired, have you ever been on the stage and you kind of said it in a way of somebody you look up to, in like voice pitch wise? Have you ever done that and be like, damn, I sounded, not noticing it, but I said it kind of like Jim Carrey or something? Have you ever done that because you've been so inspired by the people, you know what I mean, on the mountaintop? Have you ever kind of said it in a way like in the voice pitch before?
I'm sure. I'm certain I've done that.
Like, cause I see a lot of Adam Sandler guys on the local scene, or like a Mitch Hedberg type of guy trying to. You know
I think I just saw this clip of Dave Chappelle saying this. When you're young, you chase your influences. Mm-hmm. When you're experienced, you try to distance yourself from them. Mm-hmm. And I think he was quoting somebody else when he said that, but it's so true. Like when I first started doing stand up, I started paying attention to stand up in like the early 2000s, and I was watching The Daily Show, and Louis Black was on there, and I loved Louis Black. Louis Black was one of the funniest people that was around at that time. Him and Adam Ferrara, I really resonated with me for whatever reason. And I, for a long time, would catch myself kind of doing some deliveries that mirrored them in ways. Louis Black, he's an angry guy. So, it's very over the top angry. And the funny part is, I don't use it on stage as much as I do in real life. Like when I get, bent out of shape about something, or I get angry about something, I'll go over the top and ham it up. Like when he gets mad, because it's funny. And like, there's times where my friends and family see me kind of like losing my shit. And there's times where they could tell that I'm actually mad, and other times where I'm just like mad, but it's funny mad. And then there's my wife makes fun of me whenever I'm mad at the Giants. But it's, it's like kind of playful. I'm not like, it's not real, shit where it's like, oh my God, he's going to, throw something or whatever. It's not like that. But it's like, what the fuck? And then Adam Ferrara would like, he did a lot of act outs, and I was like, oh, I got a lot of act outs. So, definitely influences there. Jim Carrey too, although I don't do that as much, but I used to when I was younger. Definitely, I had more energy.
Like I did it one time at the Tacoma Station Tavern. I did a joke about having a relationship with a chick that was a little bit mentally slow, mm-hmm. and I said it like I was trying to be Richard Pryor. I said, "Yo, I wasn't intended to do that because he's one of my favorite, and like." Great Girardi, you know what I mean? A couple other people I got on my list. I'm like, and I try to put like statistics like him in my shit early on. But I said, man, I gotta slowly bridge the gap and find my voice with my writing.
Yeah, you start finding your voice, and then it just like you. Like it does take. I mean, I think people really start. Most people after like 3 consecutive years of like doing it. That starts to emerge.
Mm-hmm. And man, and before we get out of here, man, this is my last question, man. Sure. With you producing your show, man, have you give opportunity like, damn, this person did not achieve what you thought they could do? Or
oh yeah.
And do you give them an opportunity again, or are you like, damn, I can't give you another opportunity because you messing up the show?
It depends on the context. I've always tried to be in the mindset of there's a yet. There's nothing such thing as like not just not being funny and they're never going to be funny. It's always a yet. I tend to make my assessment on that type of thing when it comes to opportunities. Do I just think you're funny and you didn't have the night you thought you were going to have, or did you make choices that put you there that aren't like typical of you? Like if you're doing stuff that I'm like, that's not what I booked. then I'm less likely to trust you, right? Or if you did stuff that just is not smart.
Okay, let me bend this question a little bit. Have you booked the headliner? Because I talked to a lot of show producers, and sometimes the headliner doesn't succeed what they thought the producer thought they should have done, right? Like I seen it, like I watched a show the other day, it was an older comedian, and the person had old references, right?
Mm-hmm.
And some people didn't know about the references, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it was not, people's like, damn, where's the other jokes at, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it was on the Throwback Thursday, right? So have you ever had a situation like that, the headliner having, making
Not
something happen? Not not come up, not show up.
Yeah, absolutely. I've had, sometimes it's hey, they weren't a good fit for
The show.
a particular audience. Sometimes we get, sometimes the audience shifts and you get an audience that, it could be the same venue, but there you get a couple birthday parties and the dynamics in the room change. And then, some I try to be pretty selective in my headliners of picking people who I think have the ability to play to diverse crowds. They're not kind of locked into their own stuff. But I've seen headliners that I gave a shot to because I've seen them be a headliner everywhere else, or I thought they were funny at one point in time, and they either haven't adapted with the times or didn't know what they were getting into doing our type of room. Or I've also had times where I've booked the headliners and they just went off the reservation and tried to do new stuff off rip and lost people early. And that hasn't happened as much lately because we got a little more selective, especially with doing weekend shows only. When we were doing weekdays, we took a few more chances. Now, because we have a lot larger crowd paying money, we don't want to disappoint them. So, but to answer your question, yeah, it happens.
Okay.
There's no full proofing that.
Before we get out of here, man, can you give the people your social medias and give me a score for the Super Bowl, man? Chiefs or Eagles, man? And then we out of here.
All right. At Joey Low on Low Comedy on Instagram. And it's at comedy shows near.me. Check us out. We do shows all over the DMV. We actually are just open signups for our Community of the Year competition for 2025.
I've seen that too. I think my man, the guy I had on my podcast, Joe Sikora Jr. is doing that.
He just submitted a tape, and I just watched it the other day. And yeah, we just talked. I think we just sent out the acceptances for the first group of people. Okay. There's going to be so we do a comedy competition. Speaking of giving people opportunities, because we don't do open mics anymore. I'm not a big fan of comedy competitions, so I try to create one. That's my secret with all these shows. I always I hate all these things, so I'm a much harsher critic on it than.
You can't just bring people in. You can't just bring people and win the money.
So not our competitions. One, we always have a base of a neutral audience because we donate tickets to vet techs. So we have some veterans and first responders there that aren't there to see anyone in particular. We also have people who are there to see their friends, and then we also have 3 judges, and they give a composite score on your stage presence, your writing, your creativity, and a category I call, do I want to see more? Do I think you can do more time? Because I don't want to advance somebody in the competition. They go to that round 2 and they just they got the 5 minutes, but they don't have the 10 minutes. So because by the end of the year, we got to have a winner that can do 15. So we do a composite score. That way, no one judge can take you. Most of the judges are people who also book shows. So if they just like you, they can put you on a show. And then that score is added to the vote. Every audience member gets to vote for 2 people. Those votes count the same. So even if you're there to support one person, you're going to vote for your 2 funniest people. We always advance the top 2. and the person who wins gets a spot on the show on a weekend show. And then we do that 4 or 5 times, and then we do a semifinal, and then we do it 4 or 5 times again, do another semifinal. Then we have the finals at the end of the year.
That's a great idea, man.
People really grew last year doing it, and the cool thing is you get feedback. So the judges give you feedback like America's Got Talent after each set. So we can tell you what you're looking for, and some people were able to take that feedback, and it made them stronger in the next round.
Okay. The Super Bowl.
I forgot. I hate this damn Super Bowl.
Saquon looking good in that green, man.
Man, fuck all that shit. I wish I could not hate him, but this is a New York Giants household. So
damn, God damn, that hurt my feelings. I'm a Patriot, man, so that hurts my feelings. But go ahead.
You know how I feel like this I could really do away with all of this. My wife texted me. Let me see. I'm gonna go with, I don't know why. This is probably wrong. 24-17 Chiefs. I think that I for some reason have a feeling that the defenses. The Chiefs have been a defensive team. That's what's carried them this far. Spags going against his old team. Andy Reid going against his old team again. And Patrick Mahomes is just better than Jalen Hurts. So I think at the end of the day, I think it's a tight one. I don't think they're going to be able to, and hopefully they don't let Saquon run wild on them. But we'll see how it goes. Maybe, but that's what I'm going to go with. 24-17 Chiefs. Boring Super Bowl to the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I like that, man. Again, I appreciate you coming on, man. I know you said 30 minutes, but we went past that. But I appreciate that, man.
I knew I was too long-winded for that. I'm sorry.
It's all right, man. But I appreciate you coming on, man, because I've been wanting to talk to everybody from a little bit of background from everywhere. From DC, I talked to people from Ohio, Wisconsin. I think it's just a healthy conversation where people can just talk and give the tips and just their life story about comedy, man. And I think it's much needed. It was a fun conversation. Thank you for having me. All right, man. Thank you again. And
my wife is texting me.
My wife is upstairs too, man. So I gotta go, man. I appreciate you, man.
Let's all right, bro. Thanks for having me.